In the Pursuit of Truth, Dowley. Chapter 12. Land of the Free. Nothing happens unless first we dream. Carl Sandburg, American poet. A dream in its figurative sense needs to pass two tests, a high desire to pursue and a low probability to realize. For average Chinese in the last century, going abroad was a big dream. During his primary school years, Dr's teacher once conducted a poll. A hypothetical question was asked: if you had plenty of money, how would you like to spend it? The overwhelming majority picked traveling the world. But in fact, it was not just a matter of finance. To obtain a passport was so difficult that the average Chinese could only dream of it. The isolation of China was so long that the desire and curiosity to see the outside world became stronger than ever. In 1979 the diplomatic relation between the two countries was established, and Deng visited the United States. Before you knew it, going abroad became the topic of daily conversation of residents in certain corners of Shanghai. Dr was usually slow to react. His old classmates dropped by, before their leaving for attending U.S. schools. Then he realized this was actually a viable option that he had never before gave a serious thought to. "Why don't you?" Dr was asked when he visited his elementary school teacher. "You have some connections overseas, such as relatives and your father's old friends. They can be your sponsors. Once you are there, I know you can do well in school, and you can speak English. All in all, I think you are a good candidate for this." Somehow the image of Rong emerged. He was a Chinese table tennis player of 1960s and the first to win a championship for China in international sport competitions. His famous words were, "How many fighting chances can one have in his whole life? It is about time." International mailings from U.S. colleges began to arrive in response to his inquiries and applications. Dr also secured a few financial support documents. He quickly wrote letters of acknowledgement back and promised that he would do his best to self-support. Any funds received would be treated as a short-term loan. In his day job, Dr had easy access to foreign professional journals, so he knew the colleges in the U.S. that taught the same subjects as those in his evening college curriculum in Shanghai. He sent in his report cards of high school years as well as the 2 recent semesters of college courses. He wrote cover letters to explain why it took so long for him to decide to apply for a college. The magic words were, "Cultural Revolution," that most Americans would understand without further explanation, although in his case it was little more complicated than that. He enjoyed reading letters from the U.S., it was a good learning experience, how people in the U.S. actually wrote for a specific purpose and in a real situation. By the end of 1981, all paperwork from U.S. seemed to be in order, such as the admission letter and the I-20 form from an engineering college in Philadelphia for a visa application. The college accepted him as a transfer student and gave him credits for the courses he already had taken. The letter also hinted that it was possible that he could graduate with a bachelor's degree in 2 years, if he worked hard and turned out to be as good as his academic record in China had suggested. Dr sent in the passport application to the local security bureau. The new semester was scheduled to start after the new year. Applicants were anxious, but the reviewers in police uniform were not. The deadline of reporting to school was fast approaching, but there was no news. Dr asked for an interview. The officer was annoyed. "If everyone is like you, how can we get things done here?" The man in the security office spoke in a strong Shandong accent while blending in a few buzzwords in Shanghainese, which together sounded quite funny. "New semester begins soon. It is a gimmick. Isn't it after the summer?" "No, sir, I should start in the spring semester." Dr tried to keep a poker face. "Here is the copy of the paper, I can translate." "No need to translate, go back home and wait. By the time Dr. was notified to pick up his passport, it was already early February. He rushed to the U.S. consulate in Shanghai, which was within walking distance. The line was short, the staff was friendly, and the interview was brief. As the consulate officials stamped the entry visa on his passport, Dr. was filled with mixed feelings. He was finally going to the U.S., but it would be too late to catch the spring semester. He decided not to wait. Nothing was final until the plane departed the Shanghai Hongqiao airport. Dr. stopped in San Francisco to see his aunt, and she was only too glad that her nephew finally made it. As his cousin and her husband picked him up at the airport, their family car whizzed along the highway to the suburb. The red dotted line formed by the tail lights of the vehicles in front of him extended to as far as the eye could see. In the opposite lane on the left was the stream of oncoming traffic with bright headlights on, forming a spectacular view that he had never seen before. This was the mobility enjoyed by average people of the host country in their daily living. Wherever he went, there appeared to be ample public space for the people. At home, average Americans could afford their own private space, not counted by how many square meters per person, but by the number of rooms. The homes could be owned or rented, large or small, new or old, but the basic amenities were there, an incredibly generous norm by the Chinese standard. Order and privacy were another hallmark. When people formed lines in stores and at movie theaters, Dr. noticed that they kept at least a couple of feet between them and they waited patiently. There was no pushing and shoving, even the chances of rubbing shoulders with strangers are small. Most speak softly in restaurants, out of politeness and respect for others. The most impressive was the overall cleanness in public places. In the middle-class neighborhood where Dr's relatives lived, McDonald's had restrooms as clean as the first-class hotels in Shanghai. Littering was rare, although at the ramps of highway exits, Dr. observed some empty Coca-Cola bottles and plastic bags at the side when the car drove by. All in all, these were signs of a developed and civilized society. Dr. was not surprised, but seeing is believing. The first impression became a strong reaffirmation. His second stop before Philadelphia was to visit a former colleague, who was studying in a graduate school of New York State. The restoration of college entrance exams in 1977 discovered a large pool of young talents who had been idle over the past decade. AP was one of them, extremely talented and highly motivated. He was many years younger than Dr., but they seemed to like each other the moment they met in that chemical factory. AP showed intense interest in what Dr. was reading and earnestly sought after his advice. Later AP went to attend one of the best universities in China. When he learned about Dr's schedule, he sent out his invitation. Dr. had no idea that this visit to New York would greatly change the trajectory of his future course. "Please stay with us until summer, and in the meantime you may even talk to the chemistry department to see if they can let you in here." "You mean the graduate program?" Dr. sensed what was implied, but he needed affirmation. "Yes, why not?" AP said. Among the 5 graduate students here from China, none had officially finished their undergraduate courses there when they came here. "But you were all close to graduation. I am not halfway through yet. You were full-time at school, I was only part-time. You were the best and brightest from the elite colleges. I am." His point was that his situation was different. "I would talk to the department here if I were you. You have nothing to lose," he insisted. AP talked to some faculty members and visiting scholars and threw them to the head of the department. The feedback was the department considered this as a very special case and cautioned prudence. But if the admission committee agreed to accept Dr. under certain defined conditions, the department would go along with the recommendation. Now the situation was like an arrow on the string of a bow, it must be let go. So let the chips fall wherever they may. If there was a singular moment in his life that Dr. had to perform well, it was the beginning of the conversation with the chairman of the admission committee. Dr. could not predict the outcome, but he was confident. He was not concerned about the stage fright. Actually, the more critical the moment, the larger the audience, the more articulate and calm he became. Just be relaxed, frank, and confident, he reminded himself. He explained how he was deprived of the opportunity of higher education and how he persevered for over a decade in learning chemistry through self-study and work, how he performed well academically during high school years and equally well recently in evening college. He emphasized his strong desire in pursuing the graduate program and explained why he was convinced that he was ready to meet the challenge. Although Dr. prepared an outline of what he needed to say, he understood that the key was to speak from heart and to keep the conversation going. The chairman looked moved and surprised. He let Dr. continue with little interruption. Dr. was telling all the information he wanted to ask anyway. But the chairman wanted to make sure he conveyed the key message. So you are absolutely confident that you can succeed in our program. You know the elimination ratio is about 30% for those with bachelor's degrees or even master's degrees. If you give me a chance, you may soon check it out. Where did you learn your English? You do not sound like someone who first landed in the States only a few weeks ago. The professor shook Dr's hand with a firm grip. I will talk to the other members of the admission committee, and I will arrange your interviews with them too. A few days passed. AP came back with a smile. Things are looking good, and I heard that the committee chairman was pleased. He used very strong words to praise you, like intelligent, phenomenal, and outstanding. The committee as a whole was impressed by your personality as well. Dr. delved into thought. He could not believe that the matter of personality, which gave him so much trouble in China, actually played a positive role in securing the desired outcome here in the U.S. He could feel his compatibility with the new culture. He was imbued with greater optimism. A letter from the department was soon delivered to him. He was granted provisional admission status, which could be elevated to formal status, provided he would pass a series of college equivalency tests during summer, and obtain an above B+ average in his graduate coursework in the autumn. If all requirements were met, he would receive a tuition waiver and stipend starting the following year. This lucky twist actually gave Dr. back 3 to 4 years of his lost time. The road ahead would not be easy, but the outcome would never be in doubt again. When the Lord closes the door, somewhere he opens the window. Maria's words in the movie The Sound of Music rang in his ears. JL wrote a letter to congratulate Dr. I am not really surprised. First, you had been so unfortunate for so long in China that you are due for a period of better luck in your life. Just by the law of probability, it should happen. More seriously, as Louis Pasteur once said, chance favors the prepared mind, and I knew that you would be ready when an opportunity ever knocked at your door. Finally, JL added a few words with all earnestness. I do not have to convince you that you should seriously consider finding a job there after graduation and staying there. This was exactly what Dr. had in mind. How did he continue to fare academically and career-wise? See Part 2, Chapter 13 to 24, In the Pursuit of Truth. Thank you for your attention.